The galaxy had seen many wars, many invasions, and many rising empires, but nothing prepared it for the terror that spread after the disappearance of the Chiron Dominion's first armada. It began on a quiet morning at the Galactic Council Hall, where delegates were arguing about trade routes and border taxes. But everything changed the moment an emergency alarm echoed through the chamber. A council officer ran in, pale and shaking. Council members, the Chiron fleet has crossed into Terran space. The chamber fell silent. Even speaking about Terran space made people uneasy. Humans were a strange species, quiet, distant, powerful, and extremely protective of their borders. No one knew exactly what the Terrans had built inside their territory, but everyone understood one rule: do not enter Terran space, ever. Warnings floated around the borders for thousands of kilometers. Satellites flashed red symbols. Automatic broadcasts repeated the same message every hour: turn back, Terran space. Entry I is forbidden. The warnings were simple, calm, final, but the Chiron Dominion did not respect simple warnings. They were a proud warrior empire, and they believed humans were nothing more than another weak species pretending to be strong. So the Chiron sent their first armada, 120 warships, heavily armed and ready for conquest. A council member whispered, "Are they insane?" Another replied, "They think Terrans bluff." But no one in the room believed that. Within minutes of entering Terran borders, something strange began to happen. First, the fleet's communication went silent. Then their energy signals disappeared. Then their tracking beacons vanished completely. A galaxy-wide monitoring station tried to reconnect, attempting link to Chiron flagship, failed, attempting emergency channel, failed, attempting distress frequency. No response. It was impossible. A fleet that size didn't just vanish, not quietly, not instantly. Counselors leaned forward in fear as more reports came in. Sensor reading lost, all signals lost. Fleet is no longer visible. We cannot detect wreckage. That last part terrified everyone. If the Terrans had destroyed the Chiron fleet, sensors would show debris, explosions, radiation, something. But there was nothing. No ship fragments, no distress calls, no escape pods, no power remains. It was as if 120 warships had simply been erased from existence. Rumors reached every major star system. Did the humans wipe out the armada? What weapon destroys a fleet without leaving a trace? Is Terran space alive? The smallest species panicked first. They sealed their borders and moved their colonies away from Terran space. Others demanded the council take action. The Chiron Dominion, furious and humiliated, accused humans of treachery. But the Terrans sent only one message to the council: your ships crossed into Terran territory. They ignored warnings. This is not our responsibility, nothing more. No emotion, no explanation. It only made the mystery deeper. The council hall filled again, this time with fear instead of arguments. Scientists, military tacticians, diplomats, and intelligence officers gathered to discuss the impossible disappearance. A scientist suggested, "Perhaps humans have a weapon that bends space-time," another said, "or a gravity field that crushes ships instantly." A military officer shook his head. "If that were true, we should see energy spikes. But our sensors show nothing. No one had answers." Then a quiet delegate from a small desert world raised a trembling hand. What if humans did not destroy the fleet? What if something else in their territory did it? The entire chamber froze. For years, rumors had circulated, whispers of strange signals deep inside Terran borders, tales of dark regions where no light escaped, stories claiming that humans discovered something ancient, something dangerous, and built their borders around it. But no one dared speak those rumors out loud. Until now, a cold silence settled over the hall. Hours later, a new report arrived from a long-range observation station located just outside Terran space. The officer reading the report turned pale. "We detected something." The council leaned in. "What did you detect? Is the Chiron fleet still alive? Are humans preparing an attack?" The officer swallowed. "No, none of the above." He activated a hologram. The image showed fragments of metal, tiny pieces of Chiron alloy, drifting far from the boundary of Terran space. They looked stretched, twisted, and warped, almost like they had melted, and been pulled apart by invisible claws. What could do that? Someone whispered. The officer answered, "It wasn't a weapon, at least not one we understand." A deep voice from the back of the room said the words everyone feared. Something tore the fleet apart before the Terrans even reacted. The mystery grew darker. News spread fast now. Entire planets shut down their border regions. Merchant ships changed routes to avoid Terran space. Some species even proposed banning humans from the Council, fearing that whatever lived in their territory might follow them elsewhere. But one truth became clear. The Chiron fleet ignored the warnings and disappeared instantly. If Terran borders held something powerful enough to erase 120 warships, what else were the humans hiding, and why did they not seem afraid? As the Council argued, one final message came in from a damaged beacon near Terran space. Only 3 seconds of audio survived, but the galaxy would never forget the terrified voice. "Do not enter Terran territory. This place is not normal. They are not alone." Static, silence. The hook ends. The mystery begins. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been this loud. Delegates from 57 star nations stood shouting, pacing, and arguing over each other. Words like attack, war, Terrans, danger, and disappearance echoed again and again. No one could stay calm, not after an entire Chiron war fleet vanished inside Terran space. Commander Varric of the Chiron Dominion slammed his fist against the table so hard that the impact echoed through the chamber. "They must answer for this," he roared. "The Terrans destroyed our fleet." A soft-voiced ambassador from a peaceful plant-like species spoke up timidly. "But, Commander, we have no proof." "No proof?" Varric snapped. "Our ships are gone. Humans were the only ones there." Several other delegates murmured in agreement, but some voices whispered another thought. What if the Terrans weren't the cause? What if something worse was inside their borders? A representative from the Lumai, a glowing energy-based species, flickered anxiously. "We should not accuse the humans without understanding what happened. If the cause was something else, then provoking the Terrans would be a mistake." The hall erupted again with chaos. The Galactic chairman, an elderly member of the winged Sarathi species, rose slowly from his seat. He struck his staff on the floor 3 times, and a booming sound brought silence to the hall. "Enough," he said firmly. "We will proceed with order. We need facts, not fear." He turned to the science delegates. "What do our long-range sensors show?" A scientist from the Orion Collective stepped forward, nervously tapping her screen. "We detected no explosion, no radiation, no debris field of the size expected from a destroyed fleet. Only tiny fragments, as if the ships were shredded at a molecular level." The room fell silent again. Molecular level? No known weapon could do that, not even Terran weapons. The chairman frowned. "So, you believe the Terrans did not fire on the fleet?" The scientist swallowed. "If they did, the energy signature would be visible. But it is not." Her words were like cold water thrown on the fire of anger. As the delegates whispered among themselves, the hall lights dimmed suddenly. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber. A human officer in dark Terran uniform. The entire room froze. The officer's face was calm, too calm for a moment like this. His expression held no fear, no anger, just firm clarity. He spoke in a steady voice. "Your ships crossed into Terran space. We issued warnings. They ignored them," Commander Varric hissed with fury. "What happened to them? Did you destroy our fleet?" The human officer's eyes narrowed, not in threat, but in disappointment. "Terran space is not safe for intruders." This answer only caused more shouting. "What does that mean? Is this a confession? What are the Terrans hiding?" But before anyone could respond, before the delegates could bombard him with questions, the human hologram ended just like that. The Terran officer had not explained, had not defended, had not apologized. He simply stated facts and left. The hall erupted once again, louder than before. "They refuse to explain because they are guilty," shouted one delegate. "That wasn't a threat," another argued. "It was a warning." "But a warning about what?" someone else asked. A thin reptilian ambassador from the Zetha leaned forward, his voice low and trembling. "Listen to his words. He did not say we destroyed the fleet. He said Terran space is dangerous." The hall grew uneasy. The chairman repeated softly, not safe for intruders. A cold wave passed through the room. If Terran space itself was dangerous, then what exactly was inside their territory? The oldest Lume representative flickered dimly. Something happened to the Chiron fleet before the Terrans even reacted. Something that destroys ships without sound, without explosion, without trace. Several delegates turned pale. Commander Varric stepped forward again, his voice shaking with anger, but also fear. We demand Terran presence in this hall. They must tell us exactly what destroyed our armada. But the chairman lifted a hand. We cannot force humans to appear. They speak when they choose. They will speak when they fear us, Varric shouted. The room fell into uncomfortable silence. Everyone knew the truth. Humans did not fear anyone. After hours of heated arguments, the council agreed on one action. They would send a long-range probe to observe Terran borders, but the probe would not cross the boundary. The chairman made it clear, we will not risk another incident. The probe launched with high-range scanners and stealth technology designed only to watch from a safe distance. As it approached Terran space, the council chamber watched its feed live, the S. Screens brightened. Static flickered. Shapes appeared. At first, everything looked normal. Stars, dust clouds, drifting asteroids. Then, everyone gasped. Floating in open space, just outside the Terran boundary line, were scraps of Chiron metal. Not normal scraps, not battle debris. The metal looked stretched, twisted, and warped, as if it had been pulled apart by invisible hands. The probe zoomed closer. The council chamber fell deadly quiet. The metal fragments were thin as paper, yet made from alloys designed to withstand star-level heat. Something had torn them apart effortlessly. A whisper spread. Humans did not do this. Something else did. Something inside Terran space. The chairman slowly sat down, his wings drooping. We must contact the Terrans again, he said. This time, not to accuse them. A Lume delegate flickered weakly. But to ask for the truth, he finished. The mystery deepened, and fear spread through every species present. The Galactic Council chamber was still buzzing with fear and confusion when the next shock arrived. Delegates were arguing about Terran borders, mysterious forces, and the fate of the vanished Chiron fleet. Then suddenly, every screen in the hall flickered. A loud alert sounded. The council chairman stood up immediately. Report. A young technician, shaking and pale, stared at her console. Sir, we just detected a signal from inside Terran space. The room fell silent. Completely silent. Commander Varric's eyes widened. A Terran transmission? The technician shook her head quickly. No, sir, it's Chiron. Those two words froze the blood of every person present. The Chiron fleet was gone, erased, disappeared without a trace. Yet now, one of their emergency beacons was broadcasting from deep within Terran borders. A Chiron delegate gasped. Someone survived? The chairman frowned. Put the signal on main display, now. Static filled the speakers. A low, broken hum rumbled through the hall. The technicians adjusted the frequency, trying to stabilize the signal. Boost power, one said. Clean interference, another instructed. The image sharpened a little. A faint voice, strained, terrified, began to break through. Everyone in the hall leaned forward. The voice whispered, "This is Chiron vessel. We are." The audio crackled violently. The delegates waited, their faces tense. The voice continued, "Do not enter Terran territory." A wave of fear passed through the entire chamber. Another fragment came through, louder, panicked. This place is wrong, not normal space. Some delegates covered their mouths. Others whispered prayers. The voice kept trembling. Something here, something pulled us apart. The entire chamber gasped as the final words screamed through the speakers. Do not enter And then the signal ended in a sharp burst of static. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. The council was frozen. Never in its long history had something this terrifying occurred. A fleet had vanished, and now the only surviving message said something unthinkable. There was something inside Terran space, something that wasn't human, something powerful enough to tear apart warships. A representative from the gentle Aurelian species whispered, "This is impossible. Nothing can pull apart a Chiron warship like that. A military general replied slowly. The message said, "Something tore them apart. That is not a weapon. That is a life form, or something worse." Commander Varric, although known for his pride, looked genuinely afraid. "My people, my soldiers, they died screaming." Then he turned, his voice shaking with anger. "What do the humans know about this?" Several scientists now gathered at the center of the hall, their faces pale. One of them bowed his head before Spee. "King, we analyzed the distress signal. The energy signature is unstable. It appears the Chiron ship was under extreme gravitational stress while transmitting." A delegate asked, "Gravitational stress, you mean?" "Yes," the scientist said, "as if the ship was stretched, torn, or twisted by a gravity source." Another scientist added, "No known natural phenomenon generates that type of distortion, and no artificial weapon leaves that signature." A chilling possibility appeared in everyone's minds. This was something unknown, something ancient, something inside Terran borders. A trembling voice whispered from the back, "Maybe the humans didn't destroy the fleet. Maybe they are trying to contain whatever did." The entire hall stared silently, because suddenly that explanation made terrifying sense. The council chairman took a deep breath. "Contact the Terran government." Immediately, the communication team opened a secure channel. Static appeared. Then the Terran emblem glowed on the screen. An outline of Earth surrounded by 12 stars. A stern-looking human officer appeared. "This is Admiral Leon Carter of Terran Defense." The chairman bowed respectfully. "Admiral, we received a distress signal from a Chiron ship inside your borders. We need to know, what is inside Terran space?" The admiral's face did not change. He simply said, "You were warned not to enter." A cold chill passed through the room. Varric snarled, "What destroyed our fleet, human? Answer!" Admiral Carter turned his eyes directly toward the Chiron delegate. "Your ships crossed a boundary that exists for a reason. Terran space contains regions that are not suitable for foreign vessels." Another delegate cried out, "But what is inside? A weapon? A creature?" Admiral Carter replied calmly, "Terran space contains many things. None of them concern outsiders." The Chiron commander roared in rage, but the admiral remained unmoved. Then he delivered one final statement. "The Terran border is not a threat. It is a protection." The communication cut instantly. As soon as the Terran transmission ended, chaos broke loose again. What does that mean? Protection from what? Humans are hiding something. No, humans are containing something even worse. Are we safe? Should we evacuate nearby systems? The chairman raised his voice, but no one listened. Fear had taken over. For thousands of years, the galaxy believed humans were secretive, but predictable. Now they realized something new. Humans were guarding something inside their borders, something that terrified even them, and the Chiron fleet, full of arrogance, had walked straight into it. A delegate whispered, "Something that even humans fear, something powerful enough to erase 120 ships." As the council session ended, one final thought echoed in every mind. If humanity was not the threat, then what exactly lives inside Terran space? The galaxy had no answer, but one thing was certain: no one would dare cross Terran borders again, not after hearing the dying screams of a lost fleet. The Galactic Council was still trapped in fear and confusion when the next alarming report arrived. Delegates were preparing to adjourn for the night when a panicked message came from the Deep Space Observation Station on the edge of Terran territory. "Emergency transmission. It's regarding the Chiron fleet remains." The chairman ordered the message be played immediately. A shaky voice came through. "We found something unusual outside Terran space. You need to see this." A hologram blinked to life above the chamber. It showed darkness, not the darkness of empty space. This was different. This darkness looked solid, a pitch-black sphere floating like a hole carved into the universe. No stars shone inside it, no reflecti. Ons. No movement, no sound. The delegate stared, unable to speak. The technician narrated over the image. "This region is located exactly where the Chiron fleet crossed the Terran boundary and vanished." A cold shiver passed through the hall. The hologram zoomed in. Around the edge of the black sphere, thousands of small metallic fragments drifted like broken leaves on a windless lake. The fragments were not scattered randomly. They orbited the sphere slowly, pulled by invisible forces. "That's Chiron alloy," whispered Commander Varric, eyes wide. Everyone recognized the twisted, stretched metal from earlier, but now they could see much more. hull pieces shaved thin like paper, melted armor wrapped into long strands, fragments frozen mid-explosion, shapes so warped they looked like liquid metal. A Varksha scientist whispered, "It's as if the ships were crushed, or stretched, or both." Another delegate added, "Like something grabbed them from all directions." And then someone said what everyone feared, that sphere, it is what destroyed them. The observation station had deployed a small unmanned probe, keeping it at a safe distance, several million kilometers from the boundary. The probe's scanners shined golden beams across the sphere's surface. The beams vanished instantly. No reflection, no return signal, no feedback. It absorbs everything, the technician explained. Light, energy, radar, subspace scans. Nothing comes back. A scientist frowned deeply. "That is not a natural object, not a weapon either," someone countered. "No," said another, "this is something else entirely." The room grew quieter as more data appeared. The chairman asked, "How long has this thing been here?" The technician hesitated. "Our records indicate that this black region existed inside Terran space for at least 200 years. The chamber exploded with noise again. 200. Dread years? Why didn't Terrans tell us? They hid it. No, maybe they're containing it. The technician continued. We also discovered Terran satellites surrounding the sphere. They are old, but still active. Their function appears stabilizing. Stabilizing what? The chairman demanded. The answer was chilling. The black sphere itself. Silence hit the room again. The Terrans weren't building a weapon. They were caging something. Delegates whispered to each other, panic rising like a wave. Humans found something ancient. They didn't destroy it. They trapped it. What kind of species traps this instead of running? Only humans. Only humans would do that. A small insectoid ambassador trembled. If the Terrans have been containing this for 200 years, then they must know exactly what it can do. The Chiron representative, who had spent earlier sessions shouting, was now silent. His voice came out low and fearful. The Chiron fleet crossed the cage line, and whatever is inside tore them apart. No one contradicted him. Because everyone understood, the Terran warnings were not to protect Terran space. They were to protect others from entering the black zone. More data scrolled down the holographic displays. Mass readings fluctuated. Gravity readings spiked randomly. Energy levels pulsed as if breathing. A scientist spoke in a soft, terrified voice. "It moves." Delegates gasped. "The sphere is not a weapon, and it is not static. It is alive." A chilling silence swept the chamber. Some delegates stepped back from the projection as if distance could protect them. A military general whispered the question everyone feared to ask. What did humans discover in there? The more the council studied the sphere, the more frightened they became. But through all their panic, they realized something strange. Humans were not scared. They were calm, too. Calm. Terran transmissions remained short, controlled, emotionless. Their borders had not tightened. Their fleets had not mobilized. Their government had issued no warnings beyond the usual, "Do not enter Terran space," one delegate finally asked. "Why are humans so calm while we panic?" And the answer was simple and terrifying. Because humans have lived beside this thing for centuries. They weren't afraid. They were used to it. A nervous AI specialist from the Silox Collective stood up. "We must consider a theory," he said, "one that explains everything." The council watched him anxiously. He continued, "The sphere does not attack Terran ships. It does not consume Terran energy signals. It does not move toward Terran stations." "So what does that mean?" asked the chairman. The specialist took a deep breath. "It means the Terrans adapted to it. They learned how to keep it stable. They learned how to live with it." Someone whispered, "But how do you live beside something that can erase war fleets?" The specialist shook his head. "You don't live beside it, unless you come from a world like Earth." A heavy silence fell. Earth, Death World Class 1, the most dangerous known planet, a world that breeds survivors. Only humans could survive living next to something like this. The chairman finally asked, "So the Chiron fleet was destroyed by the sphere?" The specialist nodded slowly. "It crossed the boundary. The sphere reacted. It consumed them. The Terrans did not fire a single shot." A shadow of fear spread through the chamber. And then the final question fell like a stone. If this is what happens when someone enters Terran space, What will happen if the sphere ever escapes it? The room became silent. No one had an answer, but everyone shared the same fear. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with fear, whispers, and shaking voices. For days they had watched. Mysterious reports, fading signals, twisted metal fragments, and the terrifying black sphere that floated inside Terran space. No one understood it. No one dared approach it. And worst of all, humans refused to explain anything. But on this day, everything changed. Without warning, the lights of the chamber dimmed. The hologram projectors hummed to life. Delegates turned in confusion. A message appeared on every screen. Incoming transmission. Terran High Command. A wave of gasps filled the room. Even the boldest Chiron delegate stepped back, and then the hologram materialized. A tall Terran officer stood in the projection, dressed in a black uniform with silver lines and a glowing Earth emblem on his chest. His hair was gray, his expression calm, his posture perfect. He looked like someone who had seen countless wars and survived them all. "I am Admiral Marcus Hale of the Terran Defense Front," he said. His voice was steady, controlled, unshaken. Even his presence made the council uneasy. Terrans never sent high-ranking officers unless the matter was extremely serious. The chairman bowed respectfully. "Admiral Hale, we request the truth. The galaxy is afraid. We must understand what happened to the Chiron fleet." Hale's eyes flickered for a moment, not with anger but with disappointment. "You were all warned," he said slowly. "Terran space is restricted for a reason." Varric, the Chiron commander, stepped forward. "Your reason destroyed our entire armada." Admiral Hale looked directly at him. "No, Commander. The Black Zone destroyed your armada." The chamber fell silent. Someone whispered. "He named it." Chairman spoke carefully. "Admiral, what exactly is this Black Zone?" The human did not hesitate. "The Black Zone is a Terran defense field." Gasps spread around the room. "A weapon?" asked a fearful ambassador. "A trap?" shouted another. "A living entity?" whispered a third. But Admiral Hale shook his head. "It is an automated gravity defense structure. Anything that crosses its boundary is disassembled instantly." Shock froze the room. Disassembled instantly. A fleet of 120 ships erased like dust. Commander Varric nearly choked on his words. "You, the Terrans, you built this monster?" Hale replied calmly, "Yes. And for good reason." A Lume representative flickered brighter. "What reason could justify a weapon that destroys fleets without trace?" Admiral Hale looked around the room slowly, making eye contact with every species present. Then he said 5 words that chilled the entire chamber: "To prevent another Earth tragedy." The whole hall shook with murmurs. "What tragedy? What happened on Earth? What are they hiding? Did the Terrans almost go extinct?" The chairman lifted a wing. "Admiral, please explain." Hale paused, choosing his words carefully. 2 centuries ago, before Terran space expanded, Earth detected something approaching our system, an unknown entity, a cosmic anomaly. It devoured everything in its path. Delegates leaned forward, terrified. "What do you mean by devour?" asked a scientist. Hale answered. "Stars lost energy, moons crumbled, ships vanished. Space itself twisted. A cold silence swept the chamber. Humans had survived something that should have been impossible," the Admiral continued. "Earth scientists engineered a field that could trap the entity. The Black Zone created a barrier, a cage, keeping the threat locked inside Terran borders." A delegate whispered, "So the sphere is a prison." Admiral Hale nodded. "Yes, one that must never be disturbed." Commander Varric took a shaky breath. "So when our armada crossed the border," Hale finished the sentence for him, "they entered the containment field. The zone reacted. The system did what it was designed to do." "Var." Kay's voice broke. "And you let this happen? You could have warned them." "We did," Hale said calmly. "Your ships ignored every warning, every message, every alert." A delegate cried out, "Why not tell the galaxy the truth? Why hide such a danger?" Hale's answer was simple. "Fear spreads faster than truth, and panic would risk someone trying to release the entity, to weaponize it." A collective shiver ran through the room. Weaponize it, release it. No species would dare. But the truth was clear. Some species would. The galaxy was far less trustworthy than humans hoped. The council begged for more answers. "Admiral, why didn't this entity affect Terran ships?" Because, Hale explained, our technology evolved with it. We learned how to interact with the gravity distortions without being torn apart. He paused. That is why Terran ships are some of the strongest in the galaxy. Another revelation? Humans had grown powerful not from ambition, but from survival. The hall buzzed with whispers. Humans lived beside this thing for 200 years. They fought it. They trapped it. They are stronger than any of us knew. The Chiron commander lowered his head. His fleet was gone, but now he understood. They had not been defeated by Terrans. They had been destroyed by something Terrans protected the galaxy from. Before leaving, Admiral Hale delivered one last message. Cold, controlled, unforgettable. Terran space is restricted because we cannot risk another tragedy. Honor our borders, and no harm will come to you. But if you cross them again, the black zone will not show mercy. And then the projection faded. The council was left in silence. No one dared to speak. Humans were not the threat, but they were guarding something that was, and for the first time in history, the galaxy feared Terran space. Not because humans were dangerous, but because humans, we, were the only ones brave enough to hold back the darkness. The moment Admiral Hale's message ended, silence flooded the Galactic Council chamber. Not a single delegate moved. No one whispered. No one dared breathe too loudly. The Terran Admiral's final warning echoed through their minds like a cold shadow lingering in the air. If you stay out of Terran space, no harm will come to you. If you enter uninvited, we are not responsible for your fate. Terrifying, calm, absolute. It was the kind of sentence spoken by someone who had seen horrors others could not imagine. Someone who understood danger on a level no other species could comprehend. Slowly, as if waking from a nightmare, the delegates began speaking again, but this time with fear instead of anger. Within hours, every star nation in the galaxy began updating their navigation charts. Terran space, once marked with normal boundary lines, now glowed with thick red warnings. No entry, no approach, no exceptions. Trade routes moved away. Exploration missions were canceled. Transport ships rerouted thousands of kilometers to avoid even brushing Terran borders. Even pirates, usually reckless and desperate, refused to go near Terran territory. One pirate broadcast said it clearly, "Cross Terran space? No thanks. I like being alive." Across dozens of systems, holographic teaching boards updated their lessons. For centuries, textbooks warned students about black holes, supernovas, gamma bursts, and dying stars. Now, a new danger had been added, Terran space, the forbidden zone. For the Chiron Dominion, the loss of their first armada became a wound to their pride that nothing could heal. Their strongest fleet, 120 warships, had been erased without a single Terran ship firing a weapon. Chiron leaders struggled to explain the disaster to their own citizens. It was Terran deception. Some shouted it was an alien monster. Others argued it was a trap, many insisted. But the truth was far more painful. They ignored Terran warnings. They crossed the border, and they died because of it. Whispers spread through the Chiron population. Our leaders acted like fools. They brought death upon us. We should have listened. Humans are not to be underestimated. For a warrior empire, this humiliation cut deeper than any blade. While the council debated how to prevent future incidents, the galaxy's common people created their own stories, wild, fearful, exaggerated, and dramatic. Some said, humans built a weapon that eats ships whole. Others whispered, Terrans discovered something alive in their space and trapped it. A few believed Earth created a living black hole, and they're feeding enemy ships to it. And the most frightening rumor of all, no one returns from Terran borders, not even light. Of course, most of these rumors were wrong, but the black zone was real, its danger was real, and humans were the only species who understood it. That alone was enough to fuel fear across the stars. Until now, many species saw humans as strange, emotional, unpredictable creatures from a harsh planet. Some believed Terrans lacked discipline or advanced technology. Others thought humans would always be weaker than older, longer-lived civilizations. But everything changed after the Chiron fleet vanished. Now the galaxy understood humans survived because they learned to fight danger, not avoid it. Humans grew stronger because their home world, D, was deadly, and their enemies were worse. Humans created weapons not for conquest, but to keep the darkness away. Every species now looked at Terrans with new eyes, not as allies, not as rivals, but as something far more dangerous, a force of nature. Inside military outpost commanders whispered, "We must never anger humanity. No war fleet can stand against them. They fight like survivors, not conquerors," inside science stations. Researchers discussed theories. What kind of entity did humans trap? How did they build the black zone? Could anyone else have survived it? Inside merchant ships, captains warned their crews, "If you see a Terran border beacon, turn around immediately." And in lonely spaceports, smugglers told stories over drinks. Humans know more about the dark parts of the universe than they admit. They guard secrets older than the Council. If the Terrans ever fall, the galaxy falls with them. People love stories. People love warnings even more. And soon, a new saying began spreading across every star system. Children repeated it, soldiers repeated it, captains repeated it every time they passed near Terran space. The saying was simple, short, powerful. The bravest warriors fear nothing except crossing into Terran space. Even the Chiron, once proud and fearless, repeated it quietly. Weeks later, the Galactic Council announced a new official rule: no ship from any species may enter Terran space without Terran permission. Violating this rule would result in immediate action: loss of Council membership, trade restrictions, military sanctions, and zero rescue efforts. Everyone agreed. No one argued. Even the Chiron Dominion remained silent. Because now the galaxy understood. Terran borders were not a threat. They were a warning. As peace slowly returned, one truth stayed in everyone's mind. Humans were not the monsters. Humans did not destroy the Chiron fleet. Humans were not the cause of the fear. But humans were the only species brave enough to stand between the galaxy and whatever slept inside the black zone. And for the first time in history, the galaxy was grateful for the existence of Terrans.